everything's fine. Are you going to start it off, kick it off, or am I introducing? Okay.
Yeah, look at some. They just State Hall's part of this county. Yeah, that's what we doing some, I don't know what, some kind of meeting. Oh yeah, yeah. So we mess with each other. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So you've been trying for years to get me to run it. Yes.
Yes, it is. And so I am in arts and sciences too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of this opportunity and timing. It's the right time.
You know, I believe in the process.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to legislative day. I don't know if you were there or Association of Indiana Counties had one. Yeah.
Well, I didn't make it last year, but I had scheduled.
Absolutely. Sticking with my roots, but yeah, I'll do alumni stands and all that stuff, so I'm sure we'll have
Morning.
good.
Congratulations. Oh, that's a great next step. That's right. Yeah. Cultivating, starting relationships. They're not going to be very hard, especially President Carter.
Well, I
Sort of, your own thesis.
and you guys were great.
Yeah.
And
You too.
yeah.
No. I'm a follower.
The nice thing is, you're going fire. You know, he's moved on.
I see all your he was
But at least he was rattled. He was It's awesome.
still waiting for time. Oh, here she comes right now. Yeah. Here she comes right now.
Tanya and Vigo
I saw that.
out there, so
Yeah.
I was just trying to kind of sadly.
So when she gets up here, you want me to go ahead and call it, and I see the pledge, and then I'll give it right over to you? That's how she
Sure.
has it. Is
Yeah,
that
that's fine.
Okay. Fantastic. All right today? You doing okay today? Ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting started very, very shortly. If you could please find your seats. Well, good morning to you. I am Ron Drell Moore, and I'm still here. But it's so good to see you all this morning. And if we could start things off, welcome to our third Legislative Crackerbarrel session. If we could please stand and give the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And to start things off today, we would like to have some remarks to start things off from the Library Director of the Vigo County Public Library, Christy Howe.
Can we get a big round of applause for Ron Drell, still continuing to do this, even though he's no longer a member of the local media. Continues to spend his time with us, and we're very grateful for that. I wanted to take a minute this morning to start with just a couple of different things. First, we've just ended our month-long celebration of Black History Month and now started a month-long celebration of Women's History Month. I believe it's important to continue to recognize things like that, and I want to take just a moment, and I'm surprising this person, so bear with me here, but we have a person in our room today who was just recognized on the Senate floor for her contributions to our community, to history, to in particularly discovering Black history and bringing it out of the past and into the future. And I think that's worthy of recognition. So, Dr. Reynolds, would you please wave to the group and allow us to celebrate you this morning? I was absolutely delighted to see that Senator Good had worked to make a resolution honoring Dr. Reynolds a possibility, and to do so after we worked with him previously to honor a couple of library staff. It just warmed my heart. I think there's so much that happens in politics and at the State House that can feel divisive, and it's lovely to see people within our community being lifted up and recognized for the work that they do. So, Senator, thank you for making those resolutions honoring our community a possibility. Thank you. I want to thank all of you for coming today. I want to thank the legislators for being here. It's an important part of their role as our elected official to stay in touch with the community, with their constituents, but it also requires them giving up their time on a Saturday morning after a long week in the State House, and we do appreciate it. We have a couple of members of the Ways and Means Committee here who spent like 9 hours in testimony the other day hearing Senate Bill 1, so the work they're doing is long. We appreciate them taking time to come and meet with us here. I appreciate all of you also giving up your Saturday morning. If you're like me, you had a long week at work too, and you're back here because the issues matter and they're important to you, so thank you for making time to do that. I've worked here for 12 years now, and one of the first things that I did was attend one of these Cracker Barrels. I started on February 1st, but my predecessor had invited me to come down one weekend in January and attend the Cracker Barrel with her. It was literally the first event for the library that I attended. It's a pretty unique one, and it's one that a lot of libraries don't have the opportunity to offer. We have great partners here in the League, in the Teachers Association, the NAACP, all of those who have worked with us through the years to make this happen are great community partners. It's important to me that we continue to offer these and that we do so as an example to others on what civic dialogue and exchange of ideas can look like. It's been a rough week in our nation, seeing legislators encouraged not to participate in their town halls, seeing people dragged out of their town halls, seeing arguments and what really feels like tension and violence beginning to escalate. And that is exactly the opposite of what we want to have happen here. We want to be able to disagree and express our thoughts and our opinions, but also recognize that we are all Hoosiers trying to do our best here in the Valley, and we should be working together. So I thank you for coming. I ask you, and I know you will honor my request, to continue to engage, even in disagreement, to do so with respect and civility. So thank you. Thanks for being part of this, and I look forward to the lively exchange that's going to occur. Thank you.
Very well put. Okay, and now let's start things off with each legislator being given 2 minutes for kind of an opening comment, just to talk about where things stand in the legislature. And I do believe that we will start with Representative Bob Heaton.
There we go. Can you hear me okay now? Well, appreciate everybody being here this morning. Yesterday morning I was down in Monroe County, and we had about 125 people there, and it's great dialogue and good. It's good to show up to these events and to talk about bills and talk about issues within the community, and so I appreciate everybody being here. As most of you know how the process works, and the House is looking at Senate bills now, and as mentioned, Representative Path and I was on Ways and Means Committee. And we on 2 bills on Wednesday. We were in committee for about Tanya, 9+ hours, I think it was, and dealing with Senate Bill 1 and also Senate Bill 518. So we just took testimony. We just listened to concerns and people who are against those bills or for the bills, and so and come next week we'll take a look at maybe possibly putting some amendments into those bills. But so it was, I think in the first half of session we had 179 bills that passed out of the House that's gone over to the Senate, and 91% of them were bipartisan. So that usually doesn't make the headline news. But maybe those 3 or 4 bills that are pretty contentious might make the news. But anyway, it's good. It's a process, and we got a lot going on these next few weeks. Probably, as some people have said, the last 2.5, 3 weeks of session in a long session is really when the session starts, as far as the bills going into conference committee reports, and really could be changing quite a bit over the bill itself that started out in early January. But so it's we'll see how it goes, and hope to see you next month. Thanks.
All right, Representative Tanya Path.
Thank you. Good morning, thanks for, can you hear me? Hello?
I think so.
Hello? Hello? Is that better? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rondrell.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for coming out. Happy Saturday. So in honor of Women's Month, just to remind you, 24% of the legislative body are women. 24%. It's pretty low still. So always fighting for women and trying to get a little more equal. As Bob said, the bills have changed. And again, you know, I'm a numbers person, so out of 179 bills that were, a lot of them bipartisan, only 20 made it through from the Democrats. In the Senate, 156 came over, and only 20 were from Democrats. So my message always is, women and men need equal opportunities. Democrats and Republicans, Democrats need more opportunities than what we have now. So as far as that goes, we do pretty much play well together, I would say. It's not as contentious as what's going on federally. So the property tax bills, everyone is struggling right now. We know that. But let's keep in mind that things are going to shift again. So we'll get the April forecast. And then we have to redo the budget. We have to change again. And then also 44% of our state budget comes from federal dollars. And if you've been reading the news, everything's kind of up in the air right now. I'm not saying we're not going to get them. No one knows is the problem. And I think that's creating a bit of chaos in the conversations we're having at the State House. So thank you again for coming, and looking forward to the next 2 hours.
Thank you very much. And finally, our lone senator, Senator Greg Good.
Good morning, everyone. Spring's just around the corner, right? That should hopefully get us in a better mood. I, too, would love to kind of just tick off just a few stats from the state Senate side. Number of bills introduced in the Senate, 521. Generally speaking, my political philosophy would be that's probably 500 bills too many, but that's the reality, 521. The number of bills that passed the Senate, 156. So that's about 30% of the introduced bills. Number of bills passed with unanimous support, 74. So that's about 47%, almost half. Number of bills passed with bipartisan support, and in all reality, if one member of the other side votes, we can claim that's bipartisan.
It's happened to me.
And number of those bills, 142. So that's 91% of passed bills. I think, as Representative Paff said, it's, you know, sometimes there's drama over at the State House, but it's nothing like what we see at the federal level, and I'm just so deeply, deeply grateful for that. So number of House bills that are coming over to the Senate here in the second half are 178. So as I've said in previous Cracker Barrels, the bills that where my name is as an author, if it's actually moving, it will have a Democrat co-sponsor. That is my approach to this, because in part it does make my life a little bit easier. The bill gets better vetted, and I really think it's an example where, you know, kind of people can come together and kind of get things done. Thanks.
All right, and we do want to note Representative Borders had a death in his family, so he will not be attending because the services are today. And in terms of, so please thoughts and prayers towards his family. And also Representative Yoakum is currently attending Cracker Barrel session in Park County, so that started at 9. When that wraps up, he's going to try to make it here, but that is in question, so hopefully he'll be able to make it a little bit later. So that takes care of that. All right, at this point, we are going to open up for our sponsorship questions. We're asking that members of our sponsors please line up this way so that we're not in front of the camera. And as they're lining up, we just want to give you a note that today we are taking one question from sponsors. If we could, let's go ahead and read over our sponsors so we know who they are. They are the Vigo County Public Library, League of Women Voters of Vigo County Teachers Association, Vigo County Taxpayers Association, Greater Terre Haute branch of the NAACP, and Southern Indiana Area Labor Federation. If we could all give them a round of applause for helping us to be the event that is. You could say your name and your organization and ask your question. You have a minute to ask your question. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Sylvester Edwards, president of the Greater Terre Haute NAACP. A great lady had fallen, a soldier, a warrior. I'm not going to ask the question, 8th, the West of Bynum have been a part of this community since 1979 and have been a part of the NAACP for 68 years that fought for the rights of all people. I'd like to ask everybody to give a moment of silence for her, please. Thank you. That was kind of short because most people don't know 60 seconds is a minute, a moment is 90 seconds. Now you know. I have no questions. I just want to pay homage and let everybody know a great lady has passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hi, Carly Schmidt, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County. The League grieves with our brothers and sisters in NAACP. Ms. Bynum was a integral member of our board, and she will be greatly missed. Senate Bill 287 would require school board candidates to declare a political party and run in primary elections. This bill crossed over to the House and was heard in committee this week. In an era of hyper-partisan polarization, where many point to the failings of government as a result of this polarization, in our view that public education should be separate from partisan politics, the League of Women Voters stands against this change. Do you support this legislation? And if so, why?
Thank you, and just want to know each legislator has a minute and a half to respond, and not all legislators have to respond. So,
I'll go first. I am completely against this. I believe that school board should stay as nonpartisan as possible. Once we make them partisan, you put a D or an R down, then money follows that. And to me, that doesn't need to be part of schools. You know, I've been a teacher for 32 years, and I don't know if my students are Democrat or Republican, and I don't care. The idea of education is to get the best education for people as possible so they can be contributing adults to our society. So there's no reason for me to vote on making a school board partisan.
So I wrestled with, it started in the Senate, I wrestled with this issue really from the get-go, and I ultimately voted in favor of the legislation. And this is coming from a guy who actually supported 3 candidates for school board, wrote personal checks, and I knew kind of going in their political philosophies. One, I think a Republican, one a Democrat, and then one I still don't quite know, and didn't bother me at all, because I personally don't vote, never have voted for the party. I have my own political and philosophical convictions, and declared the Republican Party, but I've supported a lot of people who have a D at the end of their name. I have no problem with that. School boards are responsible for a massive amount of your property tax dollars. Don't ever forget that. And I don't think it's asking too much for somebody to say, hey, I tend to identify this way or that way, but the beauty of the legislation is it allows for individuals to declare themselves as an independent, and that's ultimately what led me to think, okay, if somebody still wants to declare an independent, I respect that very, very much, and that's why I ultimately supported the bill.
Carly, thanks for the question. I'm the co-sponsor of that bill in the House, as you may know. I was co-author of the bill that we had in the House that didn't go anywhere. So I'm going to take a look at it. But I have a lot of people in my district that wants me to vote for it. And I guess they happen to be Republican, you know. But when you have, you know, and people ask me, they said, Bob, why do we have county surveyors, county coroners, partisan? and I really don't know, but we do. And people talk about judges as well. I mean, shouldn't a judge be nonpartisan? But you have Democrat, Republican judges that run. So, and this came up in January at our town hall in Owen County, and Derek Morgan, who's on the school board there, he told me later he's a Democrat, and I think I'd vote for the guy. I mean, he's a great guy and he does a good job, but we'll see how it goes as far as when the discussions. But I think in last month, J.D. Prescott's bill, it passed out of committee, but it didn't go anywhere. And I know this past Wednesday they had that bill in committee, but there wasn't a vote taken. So we'll see what happens this week. So thank you for the question.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Allison Thompson, and I am representing the Vigo County Teachers Association. I am a lifelong Vigo County resident and proud music teacher at Lost Creek Elementary. Public schools in Indiana serve over 90% of our students, and we serve any and all. And in VCSC, our students need smaller class sizes. That requires more teachers. That requires more funding. Many of our students have high educational or emotional or behavioral needs. In public schools, we do everything we can to help these students succeed. Extra support and resources require adequate funding. We boast quality educators and support staff, and they deserve to be paid a fair wage. That requires adequate funding. The needs go on. We'll need to supplement for textbooks and materials coming up soon. Our buildings are in disrepair. Thank you for Senate Bill 382. That is great news for us. Like our local city and county governments, we really worry about property tax reform and the implications it will have on our community. My question is, will you help Vigo County School Corporation and other public schools get adequate funding we need through Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 10001?
Sure, if I could, can speak to 382. First, thank you for paying attention to that. Just again, real quickly, this is something that's unique that I've authored, and I'm grateful for Bob and Tanya for their help and on the other at the House of Representatives. Vigo County has some financial wherewithal to work with the Vigo County School Corporation to address our school facilities. Our high schools need attention. It is about economic and workforce development, and so many great things are happening here in the Wabash Valley, but we need to address our school facilities. A referendum most recently that would have done that, 70% or so said no. So this is another way of going about it that would create a board, would enhance transparency so that when our friends from the media, the Tribune Star, would wants to follow what's going on, it creates essentially like a capital improvement board that would address the school facilities. With regard to property taxes, I know I just have a few more seconds. The Indiana Senate just did not take what the governor's proposal was. We've tweaked it. And we're kind of getting criticism from all sides, which means maybe we're landing in a halfway decent place. So that's how I'm wired, and absolutely we need to support our teachers and our retired teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Senate Bill 1 we heard on Thursday, and it deals with property taxes. But if you look at the math, as it came over, and it's better than it started, absolutely, but it still needs a lot of work. If you did the math now, the average home owner would save $96 for the year. Okay, so less than $10 a month, right? So while we all know that things are tough, absolutely, at what cost does that come? So that we don't want to shift burden onto our police, our fire, our schools, our libraries for a $96 a year savings. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. So robust conversation the other night for 4 hours, and I'm pretty sure that Jeff Thompson, who is a mathematical genius, already has things cooking. So I believe that we're going to keep having this debate probably until sine die of where the right place to land is.
Ally, good seeing you again.
You too.
Yeah, Tanya is right. We, Senate Bill 1 is going to make some big changes here in the next couple weeks. I think House Bill 1402 that deals with, and that's about 288 pages if you want to look at that later. But it deals with business personal property taxes, and I think that bill might be amended into Senate Bill 1, but we'll see. But it's kind of and it's like, I know Speaker Todd Hewson makes this comment every now and then about property taxes. That is a local tax. The state of Indiana doesn't receive 1 penny from property taxes. Okay, so, and I had a farmer here a while back, big farmer, who farms in eastern Vigo County as well as western Clay County, and he farms both a big field really, and it's the same dirt, but Clay County property taxes are like a third of what Vigo County is. And so, again, going back to collections of those taxes and so forth, and being good stewards of your money, and so we'll see how that goes. But Senator Good mentioned Senate Bill 382. Well, that's going to get a hearing on the 18th of March. Okay, so Chris May, he's the chairman, and I happen to be his mentor, and he finally said that, yeah, okay, Bob, I'll give you a hearing on that. But his first comment was, why don't the school board deal with that? And I go, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. And so because of the money that we received, the overfunding of the jail, we've got quite a bit of money to oversee and show transparency by having this committee. So the 18th, that morning, we'll have that committee hearing. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and I don't know if that is the end of our sponsor questions. Everybody have a seat first before we get to the public comment session, because I want to go over some ground rules and make sure that we all hear this. Every person has 1 minute to ask their question. The legislators have a minute to respond, a minute and a half rather to respond. Not all legislators are required to respond. 1 person per individual. If you have more than 1 question, please ask the remaining questions during the meet and greet time. And questions should be for all legislators. If your question is just for 1 legislator only, please wait until the meet and greet time. If we do these things, then we'll be able to get through as many people as possible, and we'll be able to have a meet and greet time. So I'm asking that everybody who would like to ask a question, please line up going that direction. And when you are there, please step to the podium, say your name, and ask your question. And all minds clear, let's go. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not real familiar with what happens to the money.
Could you say your name, please,
and
ma'am?
For me, I'm an accountant, so it's chase the money.
Ma'am, could you say your name, please?
Oh, Jennifer Kiefer?
Thank you.
Okay. And what I'm wondering is how much federal or or property tax money goes to charter schools, religious schools, or vouchers in the state of Indiana? I don't really know. Anybody got any numbers on that?
Bob, you got anything?
I really don't have the numbers, but in our committee hearing the other day, we talked about charter schools quite a bit when dealing with Senate Bill 518, and for the most part, that deals a lot with Marion County. And so I've got some information here as far as how many African Americans and Hispanic and so forth attend the traditional public schools as well as charter schools. In Indiana, we have charter schools. I think there's 84 charter schools in Indiana. 4 of those schools are virtual charter schools. So we have...
So they're online then?
Yeah, the 4 of them are, I believe, yeah. And so I remember 14 years ago when we did education reform, at that time, I want to say we had 50-some charter schools. And now we're up to 80 after 14 years. So
So,
How much funding, I couldn't tell you, Jennifer, exactly what
okay,
that
well,
is, but
the concern is that if
Okay,
they
so-
dismantle,
All right, and we'll start the scene and set it right now so that we can continue it. One question. We can't really have the time to go on a back and forth
Oh, okay.
dialogue with it, so.
if you want to talk to me afterwards, Jennifer,
Absolutely.
I'll talk to you.
yeah, I am concerned about this because of what happened in California.
Absolutely. Thank you for your question, ma'am.
I'm just
Yes,
looking.
yes, and
Hold on
if
one
anybody else
second
would like to
here.
respond, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers here, other than you start doing a deep dive, and K through 12 education, you got the tuition support, so like I'm part of the bill that would increase the teacher compensation on the tuition support side. It's currently 62% for teacher compensation. Our Senate bill raises that to 65%. It's still not enough, in my opinion, and we want to keep working on that. And in Indiana, we have all of the above sort of strategy. There are traditional public schools, there are public charter schools, there are homeschool options, there are virtual schools, and but we can do a deeper dive and try to get a breakdown. I just don't have it at my fingertips.
Thank you.
Good morning. Long time no see, everyone. My name is Sarah Dillon. I'm the vice chair of the Indiana Green Party. Today's question is in, of course, regards to Senate Bill 287 and how it impacts people in my party and independents. As bad as our ballot access laws are here in this state, our party feels that this bill would negatively impact people that are trying to run for office as a third party or independent. I think I gave to you a letter. I already sent it to both of your offices about suggestions about a lot of things, especially on reforming election law. So would you agree to those instead of implementing 287? Thank you.
I'll go ahead and answer.
Go ahead.
So Sarah sends me a Christmas wish list every year. It's pretty cool. And she lays out...
Thanks for the response, by the way.
You're welcome. She lays out all the ways we could use her tax money. And while I agree with some of them, it's a great list, and it just points out what better way we could be doing government. So 287 is back to the school board thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. I did want to make one more note on that. We just had a bill last year that we passed that made the school board, people that want to run for school board had to, instead of announce in August, I believe it's announced in June. I believe that's correct, right? Okay, thank you. Anyway, so we haven't even seen the effects of that bill. We don't know if that makes it better, gives people more time to look up their school board members. We don't even know if that works. And now we're coming in again saying, you got to declare, you got to declare. So, as I said before, I'm still against this.
Sarah, thanks for your two-page letter here. I'll take a look at it and
All right.
go through all your questions.
I don't have anything further. I've stated my position.
All right, thank you very much.
Good morning, my name is Marcia Miller. I was going to ask all of you a pop quiz question, which was how many of you know it's National Women's History Month, but now you all know it's National Women's History Month. But I have a second pop question. How many of you know that today is International Women's Day?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I have two quotes from President's proclamation, as all presidents have done proclamation. He did his on March 6th about National Women's History Month. Today and every day, America's daughters ignite the dreams and develop the character of our next generation. Their contributions to America's excellence are worthy of praise and recognition now and forever. Second quote, today and every day, America's daughters ignite the dreams and develop the character of our next generation. Their contributions to America's excellence are worthy of praise and recognition. The United Nations theme is for all women and girls, rights, equality, empowerment. The theme for the United States is empower, inspire, and elevate for International Women's Day. So my question for our legislators is, could you each tell me a piece of still active legislation that would specifically benefit the women and girls of Indiana?
I'll go first. First and foremost, I think one of the greatest extracurricular activities that promotes leadership for women and men are athletics. And I believe with all my heart, as much as I support the transgender community, I do not believe that biological men should be allowed to participate in girls' or women's sports.
So I'll go next. Is that okay, Bob?
Go ahead.
So in the budget, House Bill 1001, there are 7 commissions, and I can't name them all, but the only one left out of the budget was the Indiana Women's Commission, which I happen to sit on that board. So I got up and tried to offer an amendment to put that one back in, because what message are we sending to women and girls if we're eliminating the only women's commission in Indiana that supports them? So I'm still fighting that fight, in answer to your question.
Well, I agree with what Senator Good said, along with about 85% of Americans who believe that as well. Marcia, I have a sister. I have one sister. Her name is Marcia, and it's her birthday today. She's 70 years old.
Does she spell her name correctly?
M-A-R-C-I-A.
No.
Might as well stop.
All right. So it's, all right. I know how you spell your name because people ask, but I remember growing up, people would say to my sister, Marcia? No, it's Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A. But anyway, so, and I got to wish her happy birthday today. You can call her, but that's it.
That was it, okay. All righty, thank you very much.
My name is Susan Edmondson. First, I just want to say that tax dollars belong in public schools, not in any private schools or charter schools. But my question is, why are Republicans, both state and national, and I'm specifically asking today about state, so intent on taking away programs that benefit low-income families like Medicaid? I know that every Republican in the Senate voted to cut Medicaid. I don't know what's happened with that bill in the House, but we're seeing that both places where you're cutting programs that benefit low-income families. Why do Republicans want to do that?
So I'll go first, if you don't mind, because it started in the Senate. I was just looking here at the state budget from the last biennium, where the portion of the state budget for Medicaid was around 14%. It's now ballooned to in the 20s. And it's because the previous administration during COVID, previous governor's administration during COVID, was not doing something, and that is checking for Medicaid eligibility. And so a whole bunch of individuals who previously would not have been eligible for Medicaid found out, word was getting out, hey, we are now currently, nobody's checking. And so ever since the Medicaid bill was signed by President Lyndon Johnson in mid-1960s, it was done for a reason. It was to help those who truly were in need of these services. And what has happened, particularly over the last few years, is more and more dollars are being spent on individuals who otherwise would not have been eligible. It dilutes the pool of funding for those who need it. And in the meantime, it's putting additional burdens and pressures on state budgets. So I very much support Medicaid, but we have to have the guardrails so that somebody who's not eligible or engaged in Medicaid fraud, and Indiana has been under a federal audit for Medicaid fraud that started with the Biden administration. We've got to get our arms around it so that we can preserve it.
Well, I agree with Senator Good. Susan, our big concern in House Republicans in dealing with House Bill 1001 and Senate Bill 1 is the Medicaid and the potential Medicaid fraud. But a few years ago, it was around 5% or so, and as you can tell on our back of our sheet here, it's up to 18%. And so we're looking at, and that translates to billions of dollars. So, and we're looking at, still funding Medicaid in a big way. So where it ends up come the 25th of April, we'll see. But that's a big concern to us. And I tell this story, and I don't know if I mentioned it here a couple months ago, but about 8 years ago, the daily payout from the state of Indiana was $47 million a day, okay? And that's 7 days a week. Now it's $62 million a day, okay? So if you do the math on that, that's 15 million times 365 days, that's $5.4 billion that we're paying out. And that was just in the last 7 or 8 years. So that's something we need to get a hold of. And a lot of it too is what's going to come down from the federal government down to us. And that's a big part of it. So again, when I think Representative Path mentioned the April forecast, we're going to be looking at that come in about in a month or so and see where we are with that money coming in.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Nikki Neese, and this is my son, Jameson. He is battling a rare form of mitochondrial disease. It is complex, life-limiting disease that requires 24/7 care. We keep hearing that disability benefits and access to Medicaid will not be affected by future budget cuts. However, Indiana does not have a good track record of protecting disability services. FSSA's cost-saving strategies have disproportionately targeted elderly and disabled users. Implementation of waitlists essentially ration care to the most vulnerable populations here in the Wabash Valley. We continue to see strategies play out with limitations on ABA therapy, policy changes that restrict access to home and community-based services, and reduction of home health aid and nursing hours. I very much appreciate your support on Bill 1689 and Senator Good for your sponsorship. But I worry that it's not enough to secure essential services that many Hoosiers like Jameson rely on. Can you assure us that future budget cuts will not end access to services for disabled children and adults, especially if federal match is reduced?
Jameson's your son?
Yes.
God bless you.
Thank you.
My friends, this is precisely what I'm talking about. Jameson and the family should have all that they need. But what has happened over these past few years, able-bodied men with no dependents, no children, have been able to walk on into the office and sign up for Medicaid, and that is precisely my point. That forces FSSA, Family Services Administration, Department of Health, instead of doing what's right and putting those guardrails in place, the most vulnerable get penalized. And if I'm getting worked up, it's for a reason. When people have been dealt a difficult hand in life, it is upon us to take care of those individuals, not able-bodied individuals who ought to be working, who have no dependents. So you have my pledge and my promise that I will fight tooth and nail for Jameson and others who are in these difficult situations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nikki, thanks for your testimony. Just to let you know that 1689 passed the House 92-0, and it's over in the Senate now. So hopefully it'll all work out in the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'm here.
Could you say your
because
name, please, ma'am?
My name is Concerned Citizen. If you don't know me, then it's okay.
Okay, well, hold on one second.
Okay, sir, hold on.
We're asking that you
My
respect-
name is Peggy,
Thank you.
and here, as
And could you please stand up straight and
I am,
address-
okay, so.
and respect this Cracker Barrel session,
Sir,
please?
I am disabled,
Okay.
so in order to ground and not get loud and get in a situation that occurred previously, I am doing this so I'm able to speak without raising my voice, so I would appreciate the accommodation.
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Senators, my question for, please don't touch me. Thank you. My question for you is, you can define gender or exclude people. You can put triangles on people. You can march them into showers. But what are you doing actively for educators, for queer people, for mental health workers to actually offset the increased rate of suicidality among queer people, among disabled people, among all of these individuals in which the administration seems to not be targeting, but to be just as they're rifling through, it is impacting us. And I could list off names, or I could read the stop sign, but, John Lewis talks about good trouble, and as a queer person who could pass for straight, I'm not going away. And more of us, queer and transgender people, are born every single day. So no matter how many bills you attempt to eradicate us with, it's not going to happen. So how are you preventing people from killing themselves? Senators, thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm a representative, not a senator, but
Sorry, Representative Bob Heaton, how are you preventing people from killing themselves?
I tell you what, Peggy, I really don't know, but 10 and a half years ago, my son committed suicide, okay?
Okay.
So if you want to have a conversation with me afterwards about suicide and that type of situation, I'll be happy to talk to you, whether it's after the meeting or sometime later next week. Okay, so, and I tell you what, I take responsibility of that. Now, my good friends don't want me to.
Oh, no.
But I tell you what, I'm not gonna say Travis was a victim.
Mr.
Okay,
It wasn't your
right,
fault.
I know it's not, but I'm just saying, but I'm not blaming anybody for that. Okay, Travis had some issues, and I miss him dearly.
I bet.
So, there's pain, and you have pain, Peggy, and I'm sorry for that. So it's a tough situation, whether you're talking about the state of Indiana or whatever state you're talking about, or as a nation. But we just have to deal with it.
Like Travis, Mr. Heaton.
Yeah.
We want him to stay. You don't want nobody to die.
Okay, we're not going to do this right now.
All right, thank you, sir.
I was just going to say, I'm the son of a social worker, a guy named Galen Good. We lost him in 2011. He was the CEO of the Hamilton Center. I think about him every day. We do not fund enough community mental health. They do so much in a very lean way, our community mental health systems. And I remember when we lost Travis, it broke my heart, Bob, and it pains me to see others in pain. So, but we can and we should be doing more for our services.
I think what we need to do is keep advocating for mental health dollars for everyone, not for specific, groups of people, but for everyone. The 988 number, I know we've had a lot of discussions about that. It's a number so that you have someone to call and someone will pick up. And we need to figure out how to fund that. I think that is one of the most crucial things that we can, as legislators, do, is to encourage the support of that particular number, because it is hard.
Thank you, Representative, Senators, Mr. Moore. Appreciate you, and we'll be missing you here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Whitney Boyce. As most of you are aware, we have asked for a moratorium against CO2 and companies like Wabash Valley Resources who are seeking eminent domain to store carbon dioxide underground in our communities. I'm asking that we follow suit with Illinois, California, and Louisiana to protect our citizens from the risks inherent in CCS. Currently, the only 2 Class 6 wells in the United States are at ADM Decatur, Illinois. They are on an extremely small scale, and they are currently still shut down because of leaks and unintended plume migration. I'm asking that we follow suit with South Dakota, who has recently passed a law, 1052, that prohibits the use of eminent domain for carbon dioxide pipelines. I ask that you, our legislators, stand up for us the way that South Dakota, Illinois, Louisiana, and California legislators have stood for their people. What will you do to lay the groundwork for a moratorium on carbon capture and eliminate eminent domain rights for CO2 and CO2 pipelines?
I'll just quickly, because of your incredible advocacy, I'm trying to watch every single bill that relates to carbon dioxide sequestration, and there was a bill 457 that did a whole bunch of different things relating to that, and I ended up voting against it. It passed, but I was just frantically looking here. It passed 27 to 21. Yes. I think you were following it. And so I was one of those who voted against it. I feel I can't do anything in the past. Again, I wasn't here when what happened in the past. All I can do is look forward to the future. And I know you all were tracking that bill very closely, so I can only just try to do my best for the future, but I appreciate your advocacy.
Well, that bill had as much bad as it did good, so I appreciate you following it.
Thank you.
Whitney, good to see you again. Say hi to your mom when you see her.
I will.
I think, was it 1579, House Bill 1579, Ed Soliday's bill, carbon sequestration bill. It did not get it didn't go beyond the Ways and Means Committee, but as far as second or third reading on the floor. So, and what will happen with that bill, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I appreciate you, being a watchdog for that and representing your community.
I'd just like to ask you to reach out to me next week about 457. I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's good or bad. So if you could educate me, that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. I have a handout for you afterward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Flo Evinger, Concerned Citizens Against Wabash Valley Resources. It was stated in a hearing last week that the DNR is going to ask for primacy for Class 6 wells in the next 100 days. This is extremely concerning when many of these people do not have any understanding of the carbon sequestration process or the dangers posed by millions of metric tons of supercritical CO2 compressed into one area. Were you aware that the state wants primacy over Class 6 wells? Who grants the DNR the right to ask for primacy?
We don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe Bob, do you know? I don't know.
I do not know.
Well, since Morrison is head of the DNR and he formed the bill, got paid by the company, we'd like to know what's going on.
I have no idea, but I'll talk to him next week.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Janet Stroll-Ciantio. I watched the hearing last week on Senate Bill 457, where a representative was extremely dismissive of the concerns voiced by those against the bill. The committee chair likened the millions of metric tons of CO2 to a can of Pepsi. It is apparent that the legislators do not have a grasp of the dangers posed by the sheer amount of CO2 these companies plan to inject. Shake up a 12-ounce can of Pepsi and see what happens. Then think about 20 million metric tons in a concentrated area. Our community should not bear the risk of a toxic substance highly compressed in a huge concentration so a private company can make a profit.
Yeah.
Again, I voted against 457, what was over on the Senate side.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. My name's Ted Zendura. I'm from West Terre Haute, Indiana. I have a concern that's popped up because of President Trump's telehealth running out at the end of this month. They were going to try to only keep it on from COVID to the end of last year, but Congress did extend it 3 months. I called the White House about it earlier this week. But the biggest issue is the Verida thing that's still painfully bad and does a lot of illegal things. They don't show up for their drives after they may call you 3 times a day before and confirm it. And the second time, you got people that get on their cell phone all the way down the highway, or you got no seat belts you can wear because they didn't get the extender. I've talked to Mike, their QC person for Verida, but I still been hoping to get Verida replaced. We only got some doctors. It might take 6 months to get to them here in town. I had to go out of town to Fort Wayne to see Dr. Ponagati that was here for years and did good care of my eyes. So I for the first time after the last time I rode with Ryan, almost got killed on a I-70, Shibuya. That I thought I'd try it again, but it's still just as dangerous and unsafe to use, and the state still keeps jamming it down our throats. I've called the governor and everybody to try to get them to do something about Verida. They're covering about 8 states. They're in Washington, D.C., I think, as well. But
Did you have a specific question about this?
We need to solve a dilemma that people that use this telehealth to stay away from Verida for a couple of years now. We got to go back, and it's just not easy. All their long trip drivers are in Indianapolis, so they don't have somebody right here in town to take you. You got to drive all the way from Indy, drive you all back to Indy. I got about 2 or 3 doctors I got to see a year in Indy, which has been great on telehealth. It's very cheap and good to the taxpayers. You don't have to pay a penny for somebody to drive you to a doctor. So, I just wanted to comment that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't speak to on the federal side with regard to telehealth, but we need to keep focusing on expanding access points in healthcare. And one of my bills would have allowed, for instance, advanced practice nurse practitioners to be able to do more to allow their scope to their level of training. And the Indiana Medical Association has fought those types of efforts. And so I think it's telehealth. I think it's again, an all of the above type of strategy that will expand the access points, but particularly in rural settings. And we have a lot of rural people who live in very rural areas, and I'm very, very worried about availability of medical care.
Yeah, it's supposed to end April 1st, and we're just. And, they used to have 20 years of good medical transportation in Indiana furnished by Medicaid, and it was very dependable. They had independent people doing it, independent private businesses doing it.
All right.
Well, thanks for hearing my comment.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hey there. Shannon Giles from Tobacco Free Vigo. May seem silly that I'm here because all the tobacco bills died in committee. So not much is going on except for Senate Bill 453, which I'm going to come talk to the Ways and Means folks about later. And on that Medicaid thing, if we had passed an increase in the cigarette tax, we would have saved a few $100 million in Medicaid costs from people who quit smoking. So there's that. So I was curious about the fact that all the bills died in committee when here in Terre Haute and in Vigo County, we have passed extremely strong smoking ordinances. We expanded it to add e-cigarettes. We just recently passed a zoning ordinance to limit the locations of tobacco retailers. And then I started doing some digging, and Representative Heaton, Representative Borders both accept money from big tobacco companies. Representative Paff does not. Representative Good hasn't had to run for anything yet, but his boss does. Takes money from big tobacco companies, Senator Young. So my question is, I know the election's a long way off, but will you commit to not taking any more money from big tobacco companies?
Probably not. Shannon, the thing of it is, I got a question, and I'm so glad that this area is smoke-free for the most part. And I tell you, in our caucus, we're kind of wrestling with the fact as far as how much tax that we need to add on a carton of cigarettes. Would it be $1 a pack or $2, or what would be your $2 would be your recommendation? Yeah. Well, it's something I know Representative Ed Delaney talked about recently in Ways and Means, and there's several of us that whatever that amount is, I don't know, but if we did have an increase, then that may deter a lot of people from starting to smoke to begin with.
We have data that shows that it in fact does. Yes.
And then you can get into the e-vaping and that type of thing too, and that's a whole different level as well. So, but thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'm still a strong advocate of $2 a pack. Saves in the long run, helps people make healthier. I also want to tax vape and cigars and all the stuff, because, if we can help, we should.
Heated tobacco products is in that Senate Bill 453, so we need to talk about that.
Well, just another aside, I was driving down 7th Street the other day, and there were 3 teenagers just had gotten out of school, and they're all sharing a vape. I work at North. There's a lot of vaping going on, and it's not healthy, and I think some people think that it's a good alternative, and it's just not.
Yeah, ever since states, including the state of Indiana, took their tobacco settlement money and started to spend it on other things like roads, I've been pretty skeptical of that, other than I'm a huge believer in local smoking cessation programs. My former employer, Indiana State University, I think has run a pretty effective strategy, and just continuing to remind people the detriments of smoking. And I want to continue to try to find some sound, kind of pragmatic policy to do that. But we really missed a tremendous opportunity. This was about 15, 20 years ago. This massive tobacco settlement fund occurred, and politicians could have done the right thing back then and dedicated all of that money to what it should have been used for, smoking cessation programs. And instead, they borrowed against the settlement and focused on other things, and that's a real shame.
If y'all wouldn't mind protecting the little $9.1 million we have for tobacco prevention in the budget, that would be awesome.
Shannon, I had a couple years ago, I had an amendment on increasing the tax on premium cigars, as you may or may not know, and it didn't get anywhere. And it was just for 50 cents, but it was something that, at least try to get it, and then maybe later on, increase it and so forth.
I appreciate it.
And occasionally I do smoke a premium cigar, I have to admit. So, like maybe some of you, my good friend in the back, I know he does. But anyway, so.
Well, those aren't the ones our youth are getting addicted to.
That's exactly right. And but it will provide revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Diane Powell. Thanks for being here. My question is about your thoughts on Indiana's economic development future and regional development efforts, and of course the importance of strengthening it. So Senator Good, thank you for your Endless Frontier bill. I'm curious if you can share the status of SB 377 and what your colleagues at the State House feel about it.
Well, thank you. So 377 was about taking a deeper dive and providing a lot more focus on regional economic development dollars. So over the last 2 biennia, the state of Indiana entrusted about $1 billion to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to sort of spread across the state First and foremost, West Central Indiana did not receive nearly enough dollars for the great things that are happening here. So that bill puts a lot more scrutiny and pressure on the IEDC from a transparency standpoint. The bill itself as a whole is not moving forward, but different parts of the bill are. So I fully anticipate the transparency piece to move forward. When you mentioned Indiana Endless Frontier opportunities, what I'm talking about there, life sciences, health, the health of humans, animals, and plants. Take a look at what has happened with this bird flu, okay? We need to focus, and Indiana is a leader in health sciences and life sciences with regard to animal health, human health, what's going on in the pharmaceutical industry, microelectronics, semiconductors. Last week I was named to the Indiana Legislative Defense Caucus. Defense development, how can we better leverage our military installations like at Crane, the 181st Intelligence Wing. So that part, I think, is still alive. As the budget bill is going over to the Senate side, I'm going to be really focusing because I think West Central Indiana has so much to contribute and so much to be able to provide that will spur economic development and job creation for this region.
And I'm going to piggyback on that. One big part of economic development for our city are the high schools. So the bill that Greg passed, and that Bob is the primary sponsor, that we're going to push, hopefully pass through the House, is to figure out a way to build high schools in this community. Because we cannot keep going out there, marching around, saying, come to Terre Haute, people come to Terre Haute, and then they go to North or South or West, which I've taught in all three of them, and they say, I want to work here, but I don't want to live here. And that keeps continuing to happen. So until we figure out a way locally, I know it kind of answers your question, but until we figure out a way locally to improve our high schools, we're just banging our head against the wall. So I'm hoping with Senator Good's bill that we can figure out a mechanism other than a referendum to make a path forward for our community.
Thanks, Diane, for the question. When I think of Indiana Economic Development Corporation, I think of the 900, I would say, million that was sent up to Boone County and that corridor up there. And it's a big deal, and I think it's very important. But the thing of it is that kind of baffles some of us is the transparency. It's almost like, okay, here's the money, and what are you doing with it? You know, that's what we want to know. And I get the part that, well, because of other states and what's going on potentially, they want to be quiet about it. But it's something we're about ready to run out of money. So it's a tough call, but we, you know, as long as we can keep taxes low here and still create a good business climate, that's what we will attract from other states of businesses coming here. So we'll see how it goes in the next few months. But again, going back to the feds and what they're going to do with some of this funding is a big unknown to us at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Folsom, and I am a Title I Intense Needs Special Education teacher. And I wanted to bring back up HB 1001 because that deals with school funding and the voucher program. And the voucher expansion is going to greatly affect public school funding. My students would not even be able to attend a charter school if that came to it. My students are also, the majority of them require and need ABA services and cannot be functioning students without them or people. So why are we considering voucher expansion to be a priority when charter schools do not have the same checks and balances and do not include any and all and greatly underserve most Hoosier students?
So this is my 7th year, and the charter fight, the voucher fight, the public school fight is real. My biggest problem with 1001, which is one of the many reasons I voted against it, was because the expansion for the rich for vouchers. So right now, I believe it was 90% was covered, but now we're going to open it up to millions of dollars more for people that want to send their kid to a private school. That's fine. Send your kid to private school. That's great. However, I don't think our tax money should pay for it, and that's just where I'm at.
Our tax dollars are already being used for private higher education. The whole concept is that taxpayers, all taxpayers, should have as many options as possible. And you're absolutely right on public charter schools. I think we need to do more on the accountability side and the oversight side, and I want to keep focusing on that. But right now, 70% of individuals statewide who have chosen to send their children to a public charter school are persons of color. And when I think about diversity and equity and inclusion, I think that's a policy that kind of checks all those boxes. And Bob mentioned this a couple of months ago, and I started to do some digging, and the public charter school movement actually started in a very bipartisan way. I mean, the father of Indiana's public charter schools is Governor Frank O'Bannon, who worked very closely with State Senator Earlene Rogers, a great Democrat senator who we lost recently from Gary, and State Representative Greg Taylor was a co-sponsor of it. And I say that because I think what started as a real bipartisan effort has been, it's lost that cohesion. And I think part of it is we just need to keep looking and working together and increasing the accountability side of it. But I appreciate your point and your question.
Anyone else care to address her question?
Yeah, I mean, what Greg said, I mentioned, about charter schools. And, I remember 14 years ago with education reform and having money follow the child, people thought, oh, that's the end of public education. But it wasn't at all. And so it's kind of, and as far as, again, there was an expansion of charter schools. And I've got one charter school in my district in Monroe County, and Seven Oaks Classical School, and they have about 560 some kids. And I visited there last Friday and talked to Dr. Stephen Ship, the headmaster there, and they're doing well. And again, it boils down to allowing the parents to decide whether they want to have their kids educated here or there. And as I tell it, and people can agree or disagree with that, and that's fine, but I remember in 2011, at the time, Representative Matt Ubelor and I came off of an elevator, and there was all kinds of demonstration. And there was a black grandmother that met us as we got off the elevator, and she was crying, and she begged us to vote for the charter school bill. And she lived on East 34th Street up there in Marion County, and she needed to have her grandchild, not to go to this school, but to go over to this school, and to give her that option. And I wasn't about to say, hey, lady, you're not from District 46. I said, we're going to do all we can to help your cause. And that's what we did. And so, again, like I mentioned earlier, we have 80 as far as public charter schools, 84 total, counting the virtual. But as far as it just gives people options, and that's all it does. And that's all we allow to do. So, again, traditional public schools are not going to go away, and they're going to do well. And I tell you, my grandkids, they go to Clay Community Schools, and it's the traditional public schools with Staunton, North Clay, and Northview, and they're doing great. And my daughter and son-in-law are very happy with their education that they're getting over there.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your question, and we are so glad to be joined now by Representative Tim Yoakum, who was able to make it in. If it's okay, we would like to give him about 30 seconds just to kind of say hello, kind of some things that you're working on, so that we can continue on.
Hello, everyone.
Pull it upward. Yeah.
Working?
Yeah, that's good.
Well, to say I'm glad to be here. I've made every attempt to be here earlier. I had a Crackerbarrel session in Park County this morning, which is the majority of my district is Vermillion and Park and 2/3 of Clay and the very northern part of Vigo. But I made an obligation to y'all that I'd be here, and I am here. If you have any questions, I'm excited about what's going on at the State House. I'm learning my way around. It's taken a while and I got a good group of support here. It's a very challenging thing, but I feel very good about the state of Indiana and what we're doing, and look forward to working with you all. And if I can be any help, I got my business cards. I just got my business cards. So, and I will put my cell phone number on there. And some people get critical of me doing that, but government needs to be open and transparent and needs to be accessible by the people. And I want to be an example of that, but feel good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, next question, please.
Hello, my name is Rex Gamble. I live here in Terre Haute. I don't have a whole lot of credentials to put out on the table, except that by training I am a professional forester. I love and respect our natural resources. I think if you look around the areas that you represent, you see McCormick's Creek State Park, Shakamak State Park, Shade State Park, on and on and on, there are natural resources properties. My question is, why are their budgets being cut? I recently talked to managers in one of the parks, and they have been forced to reduce the number of summer employees that they hire to mow grass, to lifeguard, to clean cabins by 50%. The State Parks Department is coming up $10 million short. They're not going to be able to provide the services that are taking care of these parks. My question is, why are we going to shortchange something so valuable to the people of our state when we're sitting here with over $2 billion of surplus?
Well, Rex, appreciate your comments. I voted for 1001 that had $27.72 million in it for McCormick's Creek State Park and their campground. I'm sure you probably know that, okay? And I took a tour through that back in September from a representative from the Department of Natural Resources. And 2 years ago, we put $5 million in that to clean that up because a tornado went through there on March 31st of 2023. So now, I don't know, hopefully that $27.72 million stays in there, but I'll be watching it, of course, since that's in my district. But I'm not quite familiar with all the potential cuts that the state parks could have throughout the state of Indiana. But we have fabulous state parks, and and technically, Shakamak, you got Clay County, in Shakamak, you got Clay County, Greene and Sullivan County that is in Shakamak, 3 different counties. And so, it's a great state park. And I've never been to some like Potato Creek State Park up in southern South Bend, but I think we kicked in, was it $100 million? A couple years ago for that, for the inn up there, wasn't it, Tonya? Yeah, to build. So we got to be good stewards of the taxpayer money, and we'll see how that goes in the next 6-7 weeks. So appreciate your comments, Rex.
Yeah, the governor makes the first sort of pitch, the budget pitch. And there were a lot of cuts in that proposal to a lot of different, I think, priorities. And I agree with Bob. Now that budget bill is coming over to the Senate, or the Senate Appropriations Committee, I serve on that committee. We begin this upcoming week with hearings from all of the agencies, and I'm going to specifically ask the Department of Natural Resources to go on record here on do they agree with these cuts? If so, explain it, because I think it would not be wise to cut great state assets like our state parks. Thank you.
So I used to serve on DNR, the committee, and I got a chance to go to a bunch of state parks in the summer. Of course, they're fantastic. But so Governor Braun's budget, which is the very first one we heard, cut the Arts Commission, tourism, IEDC, Rails to Trails. I mean, it wasn't just your department, is my point. And he came in saying, look, we've got to trim the fat. Now, I don't agree with most of the things he trimmed, but it's not just you guys. I don't know if that helps at all, but again, we'll continue to argue back and forth and see where it lands in April.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just a quick time check, we are hoping to, Representative Yoakum, if you'd like to say something. Yes.
First of all, I want to say, Department of Natural Resources, I am on the Natural Resources Board. I'd like to know where you got that source from, what you stated today. I would like to know where you got that information on those cuts so I could be more familiar with it. The state parks are very, very valuable, a tremendous asset. We did got some legislation out on Turkey Run State Park. On the state parks, a lot of the counties have a lot of time involved with emergency response, sheriff's department, you name it. It does actually cost counties to respond to these parks, and I don't know how far it's went. I know we had it in I believe it in the House, was putting $1 on the gate fee. And that gate fee money will go back to the counties to help to offset any costs they have that's incurred in that. So,
Talk to the managers of the state parks, and you'll get the same information that I did. They are the ones responsible for taking care of them. They are the ones that are having to not hire adequate people this summer. Thank you.
Quick time check. We're going to try to get through everybody. We will get through this line, I believe. And also, sir, you need to get into the back of the line. That's where it starts back there. Yeah, we've got people waiting back there. So in the back, if you don't mind, we're going to try to cut off questions by yeah, that's fine. We're going to try to cut off questions by 30. So again, one question per person. Go ahead. Yes. Back there. There you go. Yeah. All right, sir. Yes.
So we're good to go? Okay. Tom Bogigian, Vice President, Vigo County Pachyderm, because everybody's throwing around their affiliations. I had a really quick question about Senate Bill 287. It's the school board partisan, and I want to make sure, give me a moment here, I didn't bring my readers. Okay. So the digest specifically mentions nominations, and my question is, how would straight party voting affect candidates if they are shifted over to a partisan versus nonpartisan?
Good question. Do you know? I haven't seen the bill, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would have to look, but if it's a partisan, it would be subject to a straight party ballot. And I am not a fan of the straight party ballot. I've never polled a straight party, and I doubt I ever will. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tom, thanks for the question. I'll probably look into more of it on Senate Bill 287 this coming week, but we'll see how it goes. So, and I am a fan of straight party ticket voting. So, anyway.
Well, I'm sorry, I always ask these questions. Everybody just gets stumped by them. I don't know if it's me or...
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Good question. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Good morning. I'm Jack Sternfeld. I wanted to hear more about Senate Bill 325, I think it is, the bill that's going to try to get more money for the schools here. It's my understanding that that bill is going to set up some sort of board to oversee that those funds and to see how they're going to be used to build the schools. And I was wondering if you could tell me more about the powers that that board would have.
Senator Good, I believe that's.
Senate Bill 325.
I meant to say 387.
I think that's the number,
Are you talking about Greg Good's bill?
Yeah, the.
Oh,
387. Yeah.
Oh, 387, okay, because 325 is not going anywhere, so.
Sorry.
That's okay. The bill simply provides a mechanism if the county determines that it would like to form a partnership with the school corporation and invest their county reserves for school construction. I think we're talking about the high schools here. Then it would require a board to be formed. The county commissioners would have an appointment, county council would have an appointment, Mayor Sackman would have an appointment, the school corporation would have an appointment, and then we would have someone appointed by our local chamber of commerce. The idea is let's get a sort of a private sector individual there as well. The bill only applies for counties that have one school corporation in it. And remind me, you're so knowledgeable about this. How many of our counties?
I believe there's 8 in the state out of 92, but only 3 would actually be affected by this bill because of the size.
Yeah, so again, the idea is, okay, if we're going to take tax dollars, but it's on the county side, to invest in schools, we want to have a mechanism to create the transparency and accountability to all of you. So that board would be subject to the open door laws for our friends in the media to cover, and subject to FOIA requests, Freedom of Information requests. But the thing I love about it the most is I hear everywhere, we need to do something about the schools, but the referendum showed that people did not want their property taxes increased to pay for it. Let's use the dollars that are already available, and that could be an option. So if the bill hopefully goes through, it still has local buy-in and the vetting that needs to occur.
And just to continue, so nothing's in stone. It could fail the House, and then we're just at the beginning again. It could pass the House, and then it's up to the county council to decide if they want to move forward with this. So it just is starting to set a mechanism up, a possible mechanism that we could use to build new schools. I hope that helps.
Yeah, Chuck, thanks for your comment. I'll get into this maybe next week. It is Chuck, isn't it?
Jack.
Jack. Okay. Jack. So it was brought to my attention that when they built the jail here, there was $40 million left over. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Well, this is what I've been told. I'm the sponsor of the bill. I guess I better find out come next week. But it was $40 million, and so that's a big part, a lot of money to have, and what's happening to it right now, and so what are we going to use that for? And so I think that's the whole the situation we're confronted with, and we want to have some good oversight, some transparency, and that's why we're looking at having these 5 or 6 individuals be a part of a committee to watch that money on behalf of the taxpayers.
Thank you.
I have no comment, but I support what you all doing on it because it's very centralized. If you only have 3 counties, right, in the state of Indiana, it only has 1 school corporation. Would that be correct?
I think so. Maybe 8 total, but yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name's Rosemary Scott. I want to ask you all, please answer the question. How did it happen that a private company was able to invoke eminent domain in our state? What happened to landowners' rights? What happened to people getting to make decisions about what goes on with their property? You know, I'm talking about Wabash Valley Resources, a private company. We don't use eminent domain for private profit, do we? Well, it looks like we do in Indiana. I want to know, how did something that terrible happen to our landowners? to our farmers, to our kids. That proposed line is within 2.5 miles of a school. If you don't care about anything else, please care about these kids. Talk about what you're going to do with $40 million. I agree, it should go to the schools. Care about our people. Care about something like eminent domain. Please tell me, how did that happen? How did these people lose their rights? We look to you to protect us. I want you to protect my fellow friends that are landowners, that are farmers.
Thank you. Representative?
Rosemarie, are you talking about House Bill 1579 that deals with eminent domain on carbon sequestration? Is that the bill you're talking about?
I'm not specifically talking about that bill, but it would fall in the category of all of these.
That's the bill that I think you're talking about, and it did not go anywhere the
Well,
first
this has already happened.
This is adding to that.
Tim knows.
Exactly what he's responding to. There was a bill that came up on the very last day of our House, and it was there, and it was never presented. That had to do with that, correct?
Yeah, 1579, so it's Soliday's bill.
Well, their rights have already been in question. This is 2-year fight.
More like a 5-year fight, isn't it? To the group back there.
No.
Yep. 2019.
I will say that in Vermilion County, before I left as commissioner, we did file a judgment, not a judgment, but I'm going to say the wrong word, from the judge to see if it was actually constitutional, and I haven't heard back from that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Yocum.
All right. Thank you very much.
Nobody else?
That's it. Thank you.
Take your land.
All right. Next, please.
Hi. My name is Delilah Rixner. I'm the marketing coordinator for the ARC of the Wabash Valley. We are a nonprofit organization that provides disability services to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities here in the Wabash Valley, but we also serve Clay, Fountain, Park, Montgomery, Putnam, Fountain, Sullivan, and Vigo County. I'm here to ask a question about Senate Bill Number 2, Medicaid Matters. I know it's a pretty comprehensive bill, so I'm only focused on Section 17.5 that was added. It reads, "The following may not advertise or otherwise market Medicaid programs," and that would be a state agency, a person that has contracted the office of the secretary under the Medicaid program, a health provider, a law firm, or any other person or entity. At the beginning of the bill, it also says it prohibits specific persons from advertising Medicaid programs and repeals language allowing for marketing of Medicaid programs. What I'm here to ask today, as this has already passed through the Senate, is you guys will be voting on this. What is your definition of marketing and advertising? Because for us, if we are not able to market or advertise, we cannot successfully let people be aware of their resources within our communities.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm against this because how do you know the services out there if no one tells you about them? So I've not seen the bill yet, but we've had many discussions in our caucus about this and about the fact that I don't believe that Medicaid is full of fraud. I don't believe that. I believe we have some cleaning up to do, but I don't believe that there are thousands of people on there that shouldn't be. So at the end of the day, I do believe we have to get the message out to people that have worked their entire lives and are just now, unfortunately, in the situation that they need Medicaid and they can't get it. So I'm against this one. We'll see what happens when it comes over.
As I mentioned, I do believe that Medicaid is dealing, we've got a fraud issue in the state of Indiana. It's the reason why an audit and an investigation that started with the Biden administration and is continuing with this current administration that's occurring. And
I'm not asking about Medicaid.
no, well, you mentioned Medicaid. I'm sorry.
Right.
You
I
mentioned
just for clarification, just so that we don't get lost within the topic. My question is defining marketing within the advertising in the communities.
Sure.
Because I know Medicaid is something that I can't speak on, so it's more of just understanding how we can spread resources in the area.
Sure. There is educating our fellow citizens about services that are available, and one can go to a social services agency and learn more about that. One can get onto a website and learn what's on that. What this does is that we are not going to spend tax dollars doing television commercials, broadcast. I mean, I don't think that's good use of taxpayer dollars. I'd rather those dollars actually go to the actual services provided.
Yeah, that bill that passed out of the Senate 40-9, and I haven't seen it. I know my good friend Dr. Barrett is the sponsor of that bill, but as far as section 17.5, I don't know what it says, so, but I'll look into it.
I can read it to you. It's right.
Well, I can read it to it also.
Sorry.
Okay.
We can have this conversation after, if that's okay.
Oh,
Did you
yeah,
have
sure.
something you'd like to say?
I think anything that be more open and transparent to people with information, I have no problem with that. And I think it's needed. But on the other hand, if you look at the rise of Medicaid, I think it's like 22%, if I'm close on that, in the entire budget. And the rise of it is it's something that's went this way, and if we're looking at budgets, I think anything in our budget should have scrutiny. It should be looked into. It should make sure it's done right. And like I said, I have no problem with advertising or getting people to recognize their rights and what government has for them. But I also think that when you look at the rise of Medicaid, the amount it's went up, it's astronomical. And we have to be looking at that budget too to make sure it's done right. And I think everybody agrees if something's there, it should be done right. And I think we as legislators have that responsibility to make sure it's done right. And so that's where I stand on that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'll make this as quick as I can. I am Corey Fryhout. I am a special ed teacher up at Terrytown. My question is in regards to H. Bill 1002. It's a massive education deregulation bill. I just want to talk about one specific part. This bill calls for the stripping of the requirement that the Secretary of Education would need a background in education. My question is, where does this provision in this bill stand today? And where do you stand on hiring someone to lead our schools who have no educational experience?
I'll be happy to talk on this one.
Thank you.
So, this was one of our very first bills we heard. Yes, we need deregulation. They bring out the book. It's like this thick of all the things that schools have to do, public schools. Anyway, and so one of them that he picked on was the new Secretary of Education. My very first vote when I got there in 2019 was, I was the only no. I was shocked, moving the Secretary of State from an elected position to an appointed one. My even fellow Democrats voted yes. And I was like, where am I? Because I believe the Secretary of Education should be elected. The coroner's elected. The Secretary of Education has a lot more to do. Anyway, so in this particular one, we kept saying, would you put a doctor in charge of the whole medical association? And the answer was yes. So why wouldn't you put an educator in charge of the Secretary of Education? So where does it stand? It's still in the bill and now it's in the House. So we lost that battle.
Where'd you go? Oh, is it Corey? Yeah. Corey, thanks for the question. Yeah, I mean, 1002, it passed out on the floor 75-16. We had several Democrats with it, Representative Ed Delaney, Dvorak, well, a bunch of them. But anyway, so I'm sure that's going to go over to the Senate, and they'll work on it, and we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, it's over to the Senate. Thanks for the question. The bill has a lot of good things. It really does remove, I mean, just all these, over time, incrementally, we just continue to pile on. I feel like we pile on to educators, right? You're going to do this, you're going to do this. So this is a good thing. This actually reduces that. But like in every bill, there are some things in there. It's like, gosh, does this really have to be in there? And so as we're looking at that, I'll take a look at it. And
It's that easy.
I do agree. I do agree. It's like I want an individual who has the credentials and the experience in the field that she or he is going to be overseeing. So, for instance, Dr. Katie Jenner has a long career as an educator, and I think she's doing a really great job. She's working her heart out, trying so hard, and but I appreciate your point.
All right, next question, please.
Hi, Sam Martland, and I'm actually kind of thinking ahead to the next session. And we had a couple of charter school questions, and the answer comes back that this is about the choice for parents, right? So my question is, which of you would be willing next year to bring in a bill to require charter schools and schools that take vouchers to accept all comers on the same terms as private schools? Never to be able to reject someone because they were special ed, never to come and try to get parents to take their kids out of the school just before testing time, as I have been told by people has happened at some schools that take vouchers, and to be subject to exactly the same school grade reports so that parents doing this choice can know what they're getting. Can we get a bill that does that and makes it true that this is about parental choice between things they understand that have to follow the same rules?
Sam, right?
Yeah.
Sam, charter schools have to accept everyone. Now, I want to tell you something. You need to do your homework on this. Yes, that is true. And Representative Path should agree with me. But that's a fact, okay? So that's a myth that they don't. But they accept everyone. Okay, now, Owen and I met with the headmaster of Seven Oaks the other day in Ellettsville, and because I confronted him, because an hour before I was with Dr. Jerry Sanders at Richland Beam Blossom Corporation in Ellettsville, and there was some discussion
I'm so
about
sorry to
whether
cut you off, but we've had a few people get in line. The line is closed.
Sam, I'd like to
go ahead.
I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will certainly look into it because I am a huge believer that we need to have the same accountability standards. But what's happening, like for instance, the one of the largest public charter school systems in the country is within the city of Indianapolis. Mayor Hogsett is in his administration oversees it. What happens is there's only so many slots. And so then they go into like a lottery system, and I don't know how we get to that, get at that from that point, but I hear your point though about we need to have the same accountability, especially as our tax dollars are going to these different options.
And I will say from sitting on education, almost every time this comes up, the Democrats offer an amendment and say, okay, if we're going to do this, then the voucher should be held to the same accountabilities. Charters are considered public schools. So yes, Bob is right, but Greg is also right. There has to be an opening. So they don't accept everyone only based on there's often not enough openings. So I guess you could argue it either way. But also, the charters, we don't have them yet in Terre Haute. One of my biggest problems is we're going to have to deal with our population decline in Terre Haute and Vigo County and our schools. And we, quite frankly, have a lot of schools for our population. And if we close a building, which, I mean, I went to Chauncey Rose, and when that closed, it took a chunk out of the neighborhood. But if we close a building, by law, again, we do this every session, try to fight this, we have to offer to a charter for $1. And so that, to me, is a bigger issue or it's the same as what you're talking about. So the conversations are being held, it's just not happening.
All right, thank you very much. And last one.
Leonard.
Good morning. My name is Leonard Akers. I'm from Vermilion County, and I do want to thank Mr. Yocum for going through the extra effort attending 2 Cracker Barrel sessions. I often go to the Park County ones, but you can't be in 2 places at the same time, so I do appreciate that. I'm not going to burden any of you with a question, but I want to give you a little bit of history. The man spoke earlier about forestry. In honor of my father that passed away 50 years ago, I want to tell you, there was not always Medicare, there was not always Social Security, there was not Medicaid. Franklin Delano Roosevelt put in a program called the Civilian Conservation Corps. My father worked in that, and thousands of those trees in Morgan, Monroe, and Brown County was planted by my father. And we all enjoy those. We always enjoy those along with the lodges and everything else. And some of the state parks in Illinois have a statue in honor of the boys from the CCC, and I don't know of a single one in Indiana. Thank you.
Good project. Thank you very much. And with that, that concludes our question and answer session. We would like to give our legislators, if we have a chance, for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Let's try to make it as concise as possible to get through everybody. Go ahead. Let's start on this end. Representative Yocum.
I want to say we're halfway done, over halfway done. I think we had over 1,400 bills presented. Am I right? Someone correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe 400 left, or
That were filed.
500 left. So bills don't always make it. A lot of good ideas I'm hearing, and a lot of people I'm seeing presenting bills, I'm saying, hey, don't let that idea go away. Let's work on it, maybe make a difference in it and change it. But I'm very happy where I'm serving. I'm very accessible. I invite you all to the State House sometime. Just let me know, and we will make a room for you to come up and see us, and enjoy you coming. Thanks.
Well, thank you all for being here. I'm just sorry I'm not down in St. Louis watching the Sycamores play like I did last year at this time, but that's the way it goes. So always next year. So again, thanks a lot. And I think, again, a lot of you know the process, and Carly certainly does, and following the bills and so forth. But yeah, we're going to be looking into the Senate bills probably hot and heavy in the next couple weeks. And so appreciate your time. And if you ever get up to the State House, a lot of people come up to the State House and share their views. And I try to accommodate that as much as I can to talk to some people in my district. So, and even people not in my district. So thank you all for coming, and Lord willing, I'll see you next month.
Just thank you for coming out. There's a lot of issues, there's a lot of passion. I remember the last week, 2 weeks ago, I voted on 65 different topics. And that was just in 1 week. And I'm a heavy believer in advocacy, and it's so nice to see all of you. We may not agree on everything, and we disagree a lot, but at the end of the day, we want to listen to you, and we want to try to do the best we can for Indiana. So thank you for coming out.
Since Bob mentioned Dr. Schmidt, I'm also going to give her a shout out. She does a lot of great things, and every once in a while Indiana State has allowed me to teach state and local government, and that's to me the best government. And that's when you can see, okay, this worked for Oregon, or this worked for Massachusetts, or this works for Indiana. And I think the more that we can do that in this country, I think the stronger and the better I think our country will be, because what Tanya said is absolutely correct. There's sometimes a disagreement here or there, but by and large, we try to get to the right place, and we do it because we're here, right? And we answer to you. So I really appreciate the library and all of the sponsors for pulling together and allowing these forums to occur. Thank you.
Hear, hear. All right, and that is it for this legislative session. The next, or Cracker Barrel session, that is. It felt like a legislative session. I'm sure they wished. The next session will be April the 12th, as everyone has mentioned. Thank you so much for attending. Have a wonderful Saturday. I'll see you then.